Greetings! Before I tell this story, I would ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stories like this. And now we begin our story.
The Whispered Secret in the Shadows. The moment Merrick first noticed the shift in Caspian's demeanor, something deep inside him stirred uneasily. Caspian had always been a fixture of steady confidence, the man whose presence could brighten even the bleakest day. Yet recently, subtle changes crept into his behavior. Hesitant glances, distracted smiles, a sudden preoccupation with his phone. It was not dramatic, but the unease grew like a quiet tide, pushing Merrick toward silent suspicion. The trust they once shared began to crack beneath the weight of unspoken doubts. Meanwhile, Delphina wearied beneath a secret she carried alone, a heavy burden festering within her heart. For 6 long months she had watched the illicit dance between Caspian and Lysandra unfold just next door. The neighbors' laughter creeping through walls, whispered conversations in the twilight hours, each moment etched deeper into Delphina's conscience. Her silence was deliberate, a choice born from fear and a fragile hope that the truth might never surface. But every day that passed wove tension tighter into the fragile fabric of their lives. Merrick confided his worries to no one, not even Ivania, his closest friend who seemed to sense the shadows looming over him. Her keen perception was a comfort, yet Merrick guarded his thoughts, unwilling to expose the fragile trust that tethered him to Caspian. Orin, his loyal assistant, noticed Merrick's distraction, offering quiet support that Merrick accepted reluctantly. With every passing day, the lines between love and betrayal blurred, transforming their world into an intricate maze of whispers and withheld truths. Delphina's silence was a double-edged sword. She feared shattering her son's world, but hated enabling the deceit that poisoned the family. Lysandra's smile, once innocent, had become a symbol of the pain lurking beneath polite facades. The neighbor was no longer just a casual presence, but an active participant in a betrayal that could unravel the very core of their relationships. Delphina's moral dilemma gnawed at her. Should she protect Merrick or confront the shattering reality? In the quiet moments at home, Merrick's intuition swelled with questions that had no answers. His eyes searched Caspian's face for signs of honesty, but increasingly found only evasions. Each lie was a thread pulling their connection further apart, yet Merrick hesitated, suspended between confronting a painful truth and preserving a fragile peace. The complexity of emotions tangled inside him like a storm, fierce and unrelenting, threatening to break loose at any moment. Ivania watched Merrick with growing concern. She knew too well the depths of heartbreak caused by betrayal, and her advice was always gentle but firm. "Sometimes silence is louder than words," she said once, her eyes reflecting a lifetime of experience. Yet Merrick was torn. His love for Caspian screamed to believe, while his instincts whispered caution. The duality of trust and doubt created a paralysis that slowed each day, making the weight of secrecy almost unbearable. Orin, ever practical and grounded, took upon himself the role of discreet guardian. Not simply an assistant, but a confidant ready to shield Merrick from the storms gathering on the horizon. Behind steady eyes, Orin pieced together the fragments of Merrick's unease, sensing the approaching reckoning. His quiet counsel was a lifeline, reminding Merrick that he was not alone in the battle between truth and deception. Still, Orin's loyalty extended to honesty. He knew the moment of confrontation was inevitable. Delphina found herself trapped between love and loyalty, her heart aching with the knowledge she withheld. The nights were long, filled with restless thoughts of how things might have been if she had chosen differently. The weight of secrecy was a silent scream in the darkness, isolating her in a world split unevenly between what was known and what remained hidden. She clung to the hope that time might heal or obscure the wounds, but beneath lay an unshakable truth waiting to be unveiled. The tension inside the household grew palpable, like the quiet before a storm. Merrick's world teetered, held together by fragile threads of hope and doubt. Caspian, aware of the growing suspicion, became increasingly guarded, his smiles more practiced, his affection distant. Lysandra's appearances, once casual and seemingly innocent, now felt deliberate, a clandestine symbol of the betrayal that festered in silent spaces where words dared not wander. In this dance of shadows and half-truths, Merrick's spirit battled exhaustion and hope. He longed for clarity, for the courage to uncover what lay hidden behind the polished facades. The once joyful home was now a stage of silent conflicts, each glance, each word heavy with unspoken meanings. As the web of deception grew thicker, Merrick sensed the inevitability of change, the moment when all hidden fragments would collide and the delicate illusion would shatter. Delphina's role as the keeper of the secret left her isolated, her interactions with Merrick tinged with unsaid confessions. The space between mother and son was filled with tension, a fragile balance neither dared disturb, yet both deeply felt. Her silence was both shield and prison, locking away truths too painful to speak aloud. Yet, there was a growing awareness that concealment was not forever, and the moment of reckoning was drawing near. Ivania's support became a beacon in Merrick's storm of uncertainty. Her steadfast presence was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there could be solidarity and strength. She urged him gently to trust his instincts and prepare for difficult truths, knowing the heartache was as much a part of growth as it was pain. Merrick listened, gathering courage from her unwavering belief that the truth, though painful, offered a path forward. Oren's vigilance ensured Merrick was not left to navigate this storm alone. His practical wisdom tempered the emotional whirlwind, offering strategies to confront or withstand the consequences of revelation. Oren believed in justice, but also in mercy, understanding that the unraveling of trust was a complex and painful process. He silently vowed to stand by Merrick, no matter what the future held, reinforcing the fragile network of support that was Merrick's lifeline. As the tension simmered beneath the surface of everyday interactions, the walls whispered secrets that no one dared voice. Caspian's duplicity was a shadow stretching long and dark across the fragile peace. Merrick's heart clenched with each passing day, caught between the desire to believe and the necessity to confront. The stage was set for a dramatic unfolding, a collision of truths and lies that would shatter the silence and forever alter their lives. Delphina's silence was no longer just personal. They edged dangerously close to the brink where silence would no longer protect but condemn. The fragile equilibrium of their existence trembled under the weight of betrayal. Each unspoken word was a fracture waiting to break open, a spark threatening to ignite the carefully concealed truths. The choices made in these moments would define not only the relationships, but the very fabric of their shared lives. Merrick's journey toward truth was only beginning, steeped in doubt but fueled by a growing determination. The path ahead was uncertain, lined with the ruins of trust and the possibility of renewal. With each heartbeat, he edged closer to the inevitable confrontation, where shadows would be cast into the light. The moments of quiet tension brimmed with potential, a bittersweet prelude to the difficult revelations awaiting him. This intricate tapestry of silence, suspicion, and secret knowledge set the stage for change. Merrick, Delphina, Caspian, Lysandra, Ivania, and Oren stood entangled in a web woven from love, betrayal, and unspoken pain. In the stillness before the storm, every glance and gesture carried hidden meaning, every silence a story, yearning to be told. As the fragile truth began to emerge, the foundations of their lives quivered with anticipation, ready to be reshaped forever. The weight of silence and betrayal. Merrick sat heavily on the worn leather chair, the weight of his thoughts pressing down like a storm ready to burst. For months, silence had shrouded his family in a cloud of unspoken truths, and that silence was starting to suffocate him. He finally decided to confide in Ivania, his most trusted friend, and Oren, his loyal assistant who had stood by him through every hardship. Both knew the stakes were high, but none of them anticipated the emotional tempest about to unfold. Evania's eyes, normally bright with warmth, softened with concern as Merrick revealed the whispers he had pieced together. There was no easy way to say it, yet the truth demanded exposure. Caspian's betrayal was not merely deceit, it was a jagged wound inflicted upon the fragile fabric of trust that held Merrick's world intact. And worse, Delphina, his mother, had known. For nearly half a year she bore the secret in silence, watching as the deceit grew between Caspian and Lysandra, the neighbor who now haunted their shared spaces. Oren, always the careful observer, nodded thoughtfully. His calm facade barely masked the hurt he felt for Merrick. "We must understand why Delphina stayed silent," he urged. "Her silence is not just betrayal. It's a complex shield, perhaps one forged from love, fear, or desperation." Merrick absorbed Oren's words, the puzzle pieces slowly aligning. To protect meant sometimes to endure the unbearable in secret. The revelation cast a new light on Delphina's character. Merrick began to recall the subtle moments, the guarded glances, the half-uttered reassurances, the quiet meals where something unsaid lingered between them. Was her silence a sacrifice, a way to shield him from pain, or had she resigned herself to helplessness? The fragile boundary between protection and complicity blurred, leaving Merrick adrift in a sea of doubt and anger. Evania reached out, her voice steady despite the turmoil. "You're not alone in this," she reminded him gently. "This isn't just about Caspian's betrayal. It's about the trust broken by silence, by the walls built to keep us safe, yet trapping us in our own pain. Sometimes facing the harsh truth is the only path forward." Merrick's heart ached at the truth of those words. The silence that had once seemed a refuge was now a battleground, scarred by guilt and sorrow. Together, the trio sifted through the fragments of evidence Merrick had gathered, texts cleverly hidden, whispered conversations overheard, the subtle changes in Delphina's demeanor. Each piece deepened the chasm of betrayal, yet also painted a portrait of a woman caught in her own moral conflict. It was not a tale of simple right or wrong, but of human frailty and the desperate need to protect loved ones, even when it meant sacrificing honesty. Merrick's relationship with Caspian, once untouchable in its brotherhood, now felt irrevocably tangled in deception. Each revelation was a blow, but it also sparked a fierce determination to confront the truth head-on. With Evania and Oren by his side, he felt a flicker of hope amid the darkness. Their unwavering support was a reminder that even in betrayal and silence, bonds of trust could be rebuilt if courage and love prevailed. Delphina's silence was more than a simple passivity. It was a shield with sharp edges cutting through their family's foundation. It forced Merrick to grapple with profound questions about loyalty and forgiveness. Could he forgive a mother who had chosen to protect him by harboring a painful secret? Could he trust again when the fabric of his closest relationships had been so brutally frayed? These questions gnawed at him relentlessly in the quiet moments. Evania's presence was a steady anchor in this storm. Her insight illuminated paths Merrick had never thought to explore, reminding him that healing often begins with dialogue. Oren's pragmatic approach balanced the emotional charge, helping Merrick strategize his next steps with clarity. Together, they formed a triangle of strength, determined to uncover the full truth and mend what silence had broken. As the evening deepened, Merrick felt the paradoxical weight of his mother's silence, heavy as a stone yet fragile as glass. It was the kind of silence that spoke volumes, echoing through the empty spaces of their home. In that moment, he understood that confronting Delphina would be inevitable. Their family's healing depended on uncovering not only what was hidden, but why it had remained buried so long. The questions ahead were daunting, but Merrick no longer faced them alone. With Evania's heartfelt empathy and Oren's steady wisdom, he began to prepare for the confrontation that lay ahead. It would require courage, patience, and an openness to uncomfortable truths. Yet beneath it all burned the unyielding hope that through honesty and pain, some semblance of trust could be restored. As the night wore on, Merrick gathered his resolve. The silence that had once seemed like a protection now felt like a challenge, a gauntlet he was determined to run. The path forward was uncertain, fraught with risk, but it was the only way to reclaim the pieces of his fractured life. Tomorrow he would face Delphina with questions that could reshape their family forever, armed with the support of those who believed in truth and loyalty above all. This chapter of his journey was far from over. The storm had only just begun to break. Yet, in the shared understanding between friends and confidants, Merrick found a glimmer of strength. The road ahead would test every fiber of his being, but it was a road he intended to walk, not in silence, but with unwavering resolve. The next step awaited, and with it, the hope of answers that might finally set them free. Confrontation and the quest for truth. The moment Merrick stepped into the quiet room, the air crackled with unspoken tension. His eyes sought Caspian, the man who had shattered the fragile trust that once bound them. Caspian's gaze flickered briefly, then steadied, bracing for the storm Merrick was about to unleash. Merrick's voice was steady but laced with years of heartbreak as he demanded answers, demanding to know how Caspian could betray him so deeply. The weight of betrayal hung heavy between them, each word cutting sharper than any blade. Delphina sat to the side, her face pale but firm. Merrick's heart ached as he turned to his mother, the woman who had kept this torment locked within her silent watchfulness. "You knew," Merrick murmured, unable to disguise the hurt. "And you said nothing." The accusation filled the room like a dense fog. Delphina's eyes glistened with remorse as she whispered of the impossible choice she faced, caught between protecting her son and the complex roots of loyalty that bound her to Lysandra and Caspian. The name Lysandra lingered in Merrick's mind like a bitter shadow. The neighbor with her deceptive smile, the woman who had tangled herself in their lives like a creeping vine. Merrick's confrontation with her was inevitable. When he finally met her gaze, the moment was charged with a storm of emotions. Lysandra did not deny her part in the betrayal. Instead, she revealed her own twisted motivations, a tangled web of loneliness and misguided desire that had led her into Caspian's arms. Ivania, Merrick's steadfast friend, stood by silently, her presence a soothing balm to the chaos that swirled around them. She had been there through every heartbreak and harrowing doubt, offering unwavering support. Alongside Oren, Merrick's trusted confidant, they became his anchors in a sea of betrayal. Together they formed a shield of loyalty and love, a stark contrast to the deceit Merrick was peeling away piece by piece. In the days that followed, Merrick wrestled with the storm inside him. Every conversation, every glance, every memory became a battleground. Yet, amid the pain, he discovered a fierce determination to regain his sense of self, shattered but not destroyed. His journey was not just about seeking justice, but about reclaiming the person he was before the shattering truth. The guidance and encouragement from Ivania and Oren illuminated a path forward, one that promised growth and eventual healing. Delphina's silence had been a puzzle Merrick needed to fully comprehend. What had driven her to bear this heavy secret in solitude? In a raw moment of honesty, Delphina confessed her fear of tearing the family apart, fear of losing Merrick to bitterness and anger. Her silence was born not of malice, but from a desperate hope to protect him from pain she only later realized was inevitable and far more profound. The emotional confrontations opened more wounds than they healed initially. Arguments flared, harsh words were exchanged, and the fragile fabric of their relationships was stretched to breaking. Yet beneath the tension, a fragile hope began to emerge. Each confession, each tear, was a step toward understanding the complex layers of human weakness, love, and forgiveness. Merrick slowly saw that the path to closure was paved not with resentment alone, but with the courage to face difficult truths. Ivania's wise counsel and Oren's calm insights often reminded Merrick that forgiveness was not about forgetting or excusing the betrayal. It was about freeing himself from the chains of bitterness that threatened to consume him. This lesson was never easy to grasp, and every step forward felt like a battle against despair. But with each passing day, Merrick's resolve grew stronger, and the jagged edges of his pain began to dull just enough to see a glimmer of hope on the horizon. The road to forgiveness intertwined with the need for healing. Merrick embraced the challenge of rebuilding his life with cautious optimism. He acknowledged that scars would remain, markers of battles fought and survived, yet he refused to let those scars define his future. His relationship with Delphina, though fractured, began to show signs of tentative repair, a testament to the power of vulnerability and honest dialogue between mother and son. In moments alone, Merrick reflected on the journey he had undertaken. The confrontation had forced him to strip away illusions and confront raw realities. It was a painful process, but also deeply liberating. He understood now that the silence that had engulfed him for so long was a fracture in trust, one that demanded honest reckoning rather than denial. With his friends and inner strength beside him, Merrick was ready to rebuild from the ruins. As the dust settled, Merrick looked toward a future where forgiveness would no longer be a distant hope, but a lived reality. The difficult conversations, the emotional clashes, and the uneasy reconciliations laid the foundation for transformation. Merrick's path was illuminated by the courage to seek truth relentlessly and the grace to embrace forgiveness, not as a weakness, but as a powerful step toward healing. This chapter of Merrick's life closed with an unspoken promise to face whatever lay ahead with open eyes and an unwavering heart. His journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long time he felt the stirrings of peace within. The next steps beckoned, and Merrick was ready to meet them with a newfound strength born of truth and love.